Get equipped with 80s Christmas spirit. We're talking Mega Man. Hit it. It was 1987. The Simpsons debuted on The Tracy Ullman Show. President Reagan delivered his famous speech at the Berlin Wall. Michael Jackson's Bad topped the charts, and Capcom released Mega Man for the NES. I'm your host, Jerry D, with another episode of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, fads. If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, we got it covered. Now, joining me today is a Totally Rad Christmas all-star. He was on episode 2 of the Time Life Treasury of Christmas, my brother and Mega Man expert, Danny. Danny, how's it going?
It's going good. I don't know about Mega Man expert. Mega Man expert in terms of having fun while I'm playing Mega Man, I guess. Fun expert.
I don't know if you can beat all the robot masters only using your Mega Buster. Yes. I think you're pretty expert.
Yeah, okay, maybe not a speedrunner though, not speedrunner level. I was actually going to say, so do I currently hold the record for most appearances?
So far, yeah.
Yeah. My goal is to be I don't know if it's Alec Baldwin or Christopher Walken of this show. No one's going to steal this.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind when I'm scheduling. when Home Alone comes around.
Oh God, and I don't need to be the lead on that show. You can get whoever. I just want to be there. I just want to listen in and like say one thing, or I don't know.
We might have to have like a big group meeting for that one.
Yes,
like 5 people on
legendary.
It's Home Alone. It's so good.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hey, before we go to the topic, I did want to say that I have a bone to pick with you.
Yeah,
I'm kind of disappointed that on your G.I. Joe show, you talked about how you were upset that David dropped your toy down the drain.
I know where this is going.
And, it's all about you, huh? Didn't bother to mention.
Well, it's my show. I mean,
my favorite G.I. Joe of all time, the orange dude, which I forgot his name.
Alley Viper.
The Alley Viper, oh my God, he was so cool. And you freaking broke him. You threw him against the wall.
Yeah.
Upset.
Yeah, my bad, bro. Not very Christmas spirit like, but you got me mad, and so I threw it.
Just for the audience, I did that quite a bit, by the way. I'm good at being annoying. I was a good little brother.
Yeah, he was a good little brother. But sorry.
That's okay. Apology accepted for the 100th time that I brought it up.
But yeah, today we're talking the Blue Bomber himself, Mega Man. I mean, I know I called you an expert, but what are your initial thoughts on Mega Man?
Okay, well, there's so much to say about this particular video game. I actually own all 11 games with complete packaging, which, by the way, 1 through 6 were yours. Thanks for donating them to me.
And you have the nerve to bring up Alley Viper.
The series created a non-linear experience, which wasn't that common at the time. I believe the original intent was to sort of like emulate or simulate, whatever the word is, rock, paper,
scissors. Yeah.
Yeah. So, rock beats scissors beats paper, paper beats rock. And so they tried to bring that concept into the game, which I believe they did very effectively. And they
totally. Yeah.
Use like the elements, fire, ice, and the cutting, which is straight from the game.
Scissors.
Gutsman throwing rocks.
Gutsman, yeah.
And then electric. Yeah. So the concept that they did giving you the power of choice in a video game was not a big thing at the time, and it really paved the way for future games being able to just not have that same experience every single time. You get to choose your adventure. It's kind of like that choose your adventure stuff. So
Nice.
I love Mega Man, and on top of it, I just don't know what it is about the Mega Man character on the NES. He's just like the cutest little guy.
Right? Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Just this little pixelated 8-bit dude, you know.
Yeah.
Like, he's so cute. He's so cute.
He's so cute, but like so determined in the way he runs and jumps.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, like the music, which I would say is on par with Castlevania. And maybe it didn't have the consistency of Mario, which pretty much every game is like amazing music, but it is the rock, the jazz, different kinds, funk. It's all in there, and that made the game even more replayable, just for the music. I could just play the game just for the music. So
yeah, actually, the as far as music goes, I know, and we'll get into it later, but I know it was rated like one of the top gaming music soundtracks like ever. So and that was back in, I think, like 2007 or 2008, something like that. But I didn't write it down, so don't don't check that out, guys. No, I'm just kidding. So Mega Man. I remember the first time I saw it, and the whole reason we're doing the show, by the way, is because in 1989 I got Mega Man 2 for Christmas. And then, of course, the last, I don't know, what was it, 5 to 10 years or so, they came out with the Mega Man's Christmas Carol and its sequel as well. So, there is a Christmas connection, but mostly it's just because I got it for Christmas and I love it. But it actually came out December 17th, 1987. It was released by Capcom. And before that, they'd really stuck with like arcade games and their console releases were mostly like just like ports of those games and things like that. And so they decided like around the mid 80s, they were going to go ahead and start to make a game specifically for like the Famicom, the Super Famicom, and or not Super, but the Japanese Famicom, which is kind of like their Nintendo, essentially. So they had already started designing when they hired a young talent, Keiji Inafune, which he's credited for some reason. Capcom, they always were credited with like aliases. He's the one that's he's Inaf King that you might see.
We used to love that name.
Yeah, he was the art student, and back in the day they didn't have like any specialists. So even though he was an art student, he ended up like kind of drawing them and then kind of creating drawings based on some of the pixels that were created of the earliest versions, and then having to pixelate some characters himself. And like everyone kind of had like 2 or 3 different hats going on because there was only 6 people on the design team.
Right.
And nowadays, I mean, you have like, it's crazy. But I mean, back then it was like guerrilla video game programming or something. I don't know,
Which actually led to some pretty disastrous projects.
I'm looking at you, E.T.
Yeah, E.T. with like one designer.
Yeah, I know.
One person on the project. Go
ahead. Then you fall in the pit and you can't get out. But yeah, Akira Kitamura was like the director. He was kind of in charge of it. He designed a lot of it and came up with like the initial concept, and then Inafune kind of came together with him and kind of filled out the other half. So even though he's like credited as really designing Mega Man, he says he only did about half of it actually. But yeah, so I remember the first time. And we'll get more into some of the history and stuff later, but I remember the very first time that I played Mega Man. It was my friend Richard's house after school one day. And immediately, like you said, just this cute little determined guy that just, he shot these little, what we used to call pellets,
Yeah, I still call them pellets.
I do too. His Mega Buster, but he shoots pellets. He had this game, and I loved it so much playing it. And so next thing I know, anytime we would go to Movieland Video, I would try to rent it until eventually, I got it myself, which was pretty awesome. But the craziest thing was that about like a year and a half, 2 years later, when part 2 came out, I remember our cousin Trey was like, "Hey, come over! I got Mega Man 2," and I was like, "What?" And so we went over, and I remember Metal Man and Bubble Man, and just like freaking out, and it was like so good. And so of course, we went and rented that and played and played and played and played. And yes, I would get up at like 5 or 5:30 in the morning and.
Oh, by the way, I have something to say about that too.
I'm sure you do. I couldn't be bothered waking y'all up. I wanted to play. I just could waste time, man.
All you had to do was just pound on the wall. You're right next door.
Well, I had a brand new game.
I would wake up. I had to go to the restroom, and I would be infuriated seeing the light and the crack under your door, and
because you knew what was going on.
Jerry.
Hey, man, you get a game, you're so excited to play, you get up and you play.
Yeah, and it was, it was your system. Well, it wasn't ours, so.
Yeah, that's right. What's that about? No, but I remember being so excited, and I couldn't wait to play, Yeah, and then of course later on parts 3 when they introduced the slide, and then part 4 introduced like the charged up Mega Buster, Mega Shot or whatever you call it,
Mega Buster.
Yeah, and and then 5 and 6 and all that stuff, Rush and all those other guys, just it was always something about it that was just so cool. And I love the design more than I love the designs for Mario, more than I love the designs for like Kid Icarus or Metroid or Contra, and those are all great games. I love playing those games, but something about the design just kind of spoke to like my little kid in me, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
So you got Mega Man 2 for Christmas?
I did. Yeah, there's a picture that I posted, and I'll put it on our social media. And it's like all 3 of us, and I'm holding up like a Batman comic book anthology. It's like a Batman through the years, and in my other hand, I've got Mega Man 2.
I think I remember that. That's awesome. I forgot about that. That's so cool, man. Real quick, by the way, I did want to say, whenever you got a video game, it was your present, but it was actually like Christmas for me too, because, I get to watch you, I get to play it myself. I mean, so it kind of sucks because like I get double presents,
It's all right, man. It's okay.
But
sorry for making you watch me so much until I beat it first.
Older brother privileges.
That is true. We got to get something since we're older.
I've been the spoiled one anyway. So, but what was I going to tell you? The cool part about Mega Man 2 being that Mega Man 1 didn't do that well.
No, it really didn't.
As they had expected, except the critics loved it, and there's just fantastic reviews of it. But so Capcom was hesitant to do a sequel, and I don't know if you looked at this in your research.
I did, yeah. Go ahead though.
So basically, from what I can gather, is that Mega Man 2, they basically told that team. Sorry for saying basically so much. They told that team because they really wanted to go through with it, like they love that game. But they told the team, if you want to do this, you have to do it like outside of
on your own time,
on your work time. And they actually did it on their own
in like 3 to 4 months, right?
Super quick, yeah. And then they, I guess they gave it to whoever's in charge, and they were like, "Yeah, this is an awesome game," or whatever. I don't know how that works, but it was not official, like on company time.
That's so cool.
It's just like freaking ridiculous because this Mega Man 2 is known as the best Mega Man game.
Yeah, I like part 3 a little bit better personally. I mean, I love part 2, but I think I like part 3 a little bit better. But yeah, that's it. You're right. Insane. It's so funny that everyone, like all the critics and fans, mostly vote part 2 as like the best of the series.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, Mega Man. So he was, it's so funny because they made him blue because that's the NES had more blue colors. So, but his initial design was he was kind of based on Astro Boy, the Japanese manga comic, and you can see Rock and Astro Boy. They look very similar, although Rock and Mega Man in general, they kind of have more of the Popeye forearms and shins, where it's a little more
that's a good way to put it.
Well, yeah. It opens up, I suppose, a little bit more to the hand and to the foot. and the hair is, it's, you know, it's just a little more wild, but you know, they have
Yeah.
that same kind of look. And so they made him blue, but it's funny how much they took inspiration from like other folks. So like Dr.
Yeah.
Light was based on Santa Claus. Dr. Wily was based on Albert Einstein.
That's right.
I mean, it's like, what?
That's so cool.
Yeah, it really is. And like a Lekman, Inafune based him on like comic book characters.
Mhm.
So he's got that lightning bolt kind of thing on his head, or on his mask, I should say, and so he's kind of based on a superhero. But you can see that's kind of like Electro, the way he's got kind of the lightning bolt in his head,
Wow.
that kind of a thing. So it's just really interesting how, even though they were working on some sprites, and then he kind of like went in and polished it off a little bit, but like you were saying, they base things on other things. But that concept of open, your choice,
Mm-hmm.
that always appealed to me, and probably not as much as you did. I mean, I always like the choose your own adventure books as well.
Yeah.
But there's something about the circular way. I mean, even the screen, like later on, they kind of made it more Brady Bunch, like a grid of like a 3x3 grid, but like the first one, it's got, there's only 6 robot masters. So it's got the 2 at the top, 2 on the outside, and 2 at the bottom. And so it's almost like a circle itself.
Right.
I liked that, although it did bug me in part 3 when there were kind of really more like 2 circles.
Yeah.
That always kind of bugged me. Which is funny because for part 3, Kitamura, who had directed and kind of oversaw 1 and 2, he left. He quit Capcom and went to another system, and that's when Inafune was kind of like in charge. And so he, like, for him, part 3 is like the worst because of all the other stuff he had to do and the pressures and all that. So like originally, one thing I found out was a Rush, who was a Mega Man's dog, and it helped him out and introduced in part 3, and as kind of a combination of like items 1, item 2, and item 3 for Mega Man in part 2. He kind of encapsulates all that. They were originally going to have like a Rush drill mechanic as well.
Oh wow.
And but they couldn't. Cool. They didn't quite get it on time, and so he was more upset that it wasn't as polished as he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But to me, they have like super cool robot masters, and the whole Doc robot concept was way cool. And I
I remember that. Geez, Luis, from the first time you got there, for me it was a surprise.
I didn't know.
You beat the normal 8 robot masters, and then the portrait frames all crack, or like 4 of them crack, and then these weird, like, disgusting, scary looking monsters appear in the portrait boxes, and then it's just like, you're just like, what? Like, what do I do? Which one do I pick? And then you pick one, and then there's a big question mark.
Yep.
Pops out instead of actually seeing who you're gonna fight, and it's just like the most scary and exciting thing for a kid, like, question mark. What's happening?
Yes.
And then those levels were very difficult, and they had 2 bosses on each level. And when you got to the boss, it was that big monster, and then like a ghost drops down. And, hey, there we go. We can tie this into Christmas. It's like a ghost of the
Christmas past.
The 8 robot masters from Mega Man 2. You have to basically refight them, their spirit or whatever it is. I don't even know if it's a program or a spirit.
Well, they're robots, so I'll assume that it's like a program. Yeah.
And it comes down into the monster, which is called a Doc robot body. And then you have to fight this huge monster, which has the powers of the robots from part 2, which, oh my God, like, who came up with this?
Which was hard because, in part, I mean, that Airman beats Crashman, but in this game, there's no Airman weapon for you to choose, But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. So let's talk about like the story. So the premise of Mega Man is that Dr. Light is the creator of, he invented this like AI and these robotic systems that are just, amazing. And he wanted to use them to help mankind. So, Cutman was like a tree felling robot, to help with like lumber and collecting wood. Gutsman was, to help like move heavy objects and kind of a thing like that. And so they all had like their specialized intent. And his old assistant / rival, Dr. Wily, he is kind of becomes like an evil mad scientist. Essentially, he wants to take over the world, and he's kind of jealous that Dr. Light figured it all out, and so he steals the 6 doc robots, the 6 robot masters, studies them, and then reprograms them to help him take over the world.
Right.
So Dr. Light, he has a robot lab assistant. It was his first like official creation. There was one before, but we'll get to that later. And his name was Rock. So he had created like 2 assistants. One was a lab assistant, Rock, a little who's supposed to be about a 10-year-old boy, and then Roll, who was a 10-year-old girl, was like kind of like his sister, which I always I didn't know it was supposed to be a sister. Like growing up, I always wanted them to like get together.
Right,
but that's the Hallmark Christmas movie in me.
I've for the longest time also thought the same thing.
Yeah,
so no worries there.
Okay, but yeah,
and
so
they
it's
go together. It's like rock and roll.
Well, and that kind of later on later on you'll see that all they were kind of named after like the music theme. Yeah. But Proto Man was supposed to be called Blues,
right.
And then there's bass and treble later on and all that stuff. But anyway, so Rock, who had like this great sense of justice, I think is what they actually say, a strong sense of justice.
Oh yeah.
And so he volunteers to be converted into a fighting robot to help stop
the fighting
evil
robot.
Yeah, Mega Man, super fighting robot. Yeah, so good. The cartoon is not that great, but the theme song is good.
Oh, it was good at the time, brother. That's all I needed. Can't watch it now, but
yeah. But so he volunteers to be converted, and so he's got like two things that kind of put him ahead of the other robots. The first is his Mega Buster, which is it's like his arm can actually transform into like a cannon, like an arm cannon. And the second is his like weapons duplication ability. It's a system that allows him to duplicate the weapons of other robots, and which in the game that means that when you beat a robot, you get their power. Right. And I remember
that's probably also part of the new concept, right? Like I don't know that there were a lot of games at the time that did that. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I don't remember
steal the power.
Like I mean, like I guess in Contra, you had the different little flying things that you could get, cool, but yeah, what's that?
This is cooler though.
It's very cool. Yeah,
it's like you steal their power.
Is it? Oh man, is it like an ancient warrior eating the heart of his enemy or something?
Oh god, you have to go there.
I don't know. You brought it up. No, but yeah. So he had those 2 capabilities, and he goes on to fight and take down these robots, now called they're called robot masters.
Right.
And in the end, after you defeat the robots, you got to go after Dr. Wily, and that's essentially the game like storyline. And I know at one point they were going to include Dr. Wily kidnapping Roll, and then you'd have to go save her, and then that was abandoned.
Okay.
But it's funny because his name was Rock, and so they decided to call him Rockman. And that was his name in all the Japanese releases as well, Rockman.
Right.
But when it came to the U.S., it was like one of the vice presidents of Capcom was like, that's a terrible name. No one's going to buy that. So he came up with Mega Man because it sounded cool, Mega Man. And no one really bought it that much either in the U.S. But
they say that was more of an advertising problem.
Well, and I believe it. I mean, so close to Christmas release. I mean, you would think that it's like, ooh, what's this? It's called Mega Man. But then again, the box art was pretty terrible.
Oh, and the box art. That's right.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it was almost, it's like nothing like the game, like at all. It's terrible.
It's some like middle-aged dude.
Yes. Yeah.
Smoking a cigarette in like 80s movie.
He's got a gun costume. And he's like blue and gold, and it's just bad. It's just so bad. And then the backgrounds are like were nothing like the game. And but yeah, so he came up with the name Mega Man. And so, they kind of retconned over the years that while his real name is Rock, they kept it, that his nickname, Roll gave him the nickname Mega. And so he calls himself Mega Man. Okay. Which is that's just dumb.
whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
What-
it's come on. I mean,
I like the name Mega Man.
I do too. It's so cool.
Rockman sounds like to an American audience. I think he was right. Mega Man sounds much cooler.
I agree. Yeah.
And it's weird that he's like this little tiny little boy, but
Well, he's just a 10-year-old boy, man.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Captain N cartoon?
I barely remember it, but I remember Mega Man and Mega Girl.
Yeah,
from the
So
show.
Mega Man was green in that one, and he
Yeah,
always said the word
blue and
mega,
green.
like in front of, kind of like Smurf, like like mega high, and he had this gravelly voice like mega. I mean, it was bad,
He always had
but
the
it was
voice.
cool. He came out in a show, and I remember loving it, even though it was
Yeah.
pretty terrible.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. Loved watching that with you.
But yeah, so that's the premise of Mega Man, and of course, as we know, he defeats Dr. Wily, and
That's
Dr.
right.
Wily, comes
Then
back.
This kind of becomes this cycle of the same thing over and over.
Yeah,
Dr. Wily makes his own robots.
starts making his own robots because he studied the
Yeah.
designs, but I gotta say, the robots in part 2 are like way cooler than the robots of part 1. I mean, let's be honest,
What do you mean, like cooler in their design, or just
cooler in design, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they also had a lot of them had like more than one like attack or more than one
Right.
animation, so like mostly like Cutman, for example, from Mega Man, the original game.
Yeah.
He would jump and he would just kind of throw his his cut blade or I forget what it's called, but that's about it,
Yeah.
Same thing, Gutsman, he would just jump and then randomly he would pick up a boulder and throw it at you.
Right.
But then you had like Flashman, who could freeze time, but then he would also shoot like his gun as well.
Right. Oh man, I had trouble with him. A lot of trouble with him.
Flashman, yeah. Or Quickman. Oh, Quickman was always.
Oh, Quick Man. Yeah.
He was the hardest, I remember.
It's crazy because people say like Mega Man 1 is the hardest of the first 6 at least.
Oh, totally.
And I don't know if it's the hardest, but I do know like it just sucks because there's no what do you call it, password system.
Right.
And there's a few like quality of life things that make it more difficult. But as far as the bosses, the only one that is very difficult for me, and by the way, whoever's listening, at this point, I don't use the powers anymore because the game is too easy. It's just not fun. So I play every single boss, at least the ones that I can, because there's some you have to use a power. But the ones that I can, I only use Mega Buster because you have to be able to survive long enough, get enough hits with the Mega Buster, which they are for less damage to the boss. And so
what, you think you're better than me? No.
we can cut this. What was I saying?
No. So I know what you mean. So you when you play the game and you're fighting the Robot Masters, you only use the Mega Buster to make it harder.
Right. So, but Mega Man 1 is pretty easy with just the Mega Buster.
The other ones can be trickier.
Elecman. But
Elecman is so.
He's ridiculous. He's
you got to use it.
hard.
Well, and that was one of the biggest complaints when they were doing part 2 was that a lot of people were finding it pretty difficult. So then they came up with the 2 system, the normal and like the difficult setting. The difficult setting was like the regular setting of part 1. And and then the normal setting was like, easier. So, and I remember.
Let me say one more thing real quick. So of all the first 6 games, I've been able to beat all of them with just the Mega Buster, but there is one game that I have not beaten with just the Mega Buster. Do you venture a guess? Part 3, and it's because of the Doc robots, which we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know how to beat them without powers. They're so tall. I can't jump over them.
Oh, that's true. They are taller. I remember looking at the sprites because, as I mentioned earlier, there's the Mega Man's Christmas Carol was like a fan-made game where Mega Man, Dr. Wily, creates like a robot Santa and he like recreates like a Christmas Carol. So you have like Marley's Ghost and like, Christmas Past and Christmas Future and stuff like that. But it's all Mega Man. And so I really enjoyed it, but I wanted to make my own kind of game.
Right.
And so that's what I've been working on. I've been programming a game, but that's actually like not a Mega Man game, but has the Mega Man style physics. Because I've always liked the physics, the in-game physics of Mega Man. You know, how long it takes him to jump, how far he can jump, how he can kind of scoot, the way he runs. Something about it was always easier to control, or more predictable, I should say, than like Mario. You know, some of those other games, Metroid. Castlevania, yeah. I mean, it was just there was something about the way they programmed the physics of the game to really make it work. So I wanted to make my own Christmas style game. So for about a year now, I haven't really worked on it in about a year, but I took, you know, Dr. Light, who was designed after Santa, and turned him into a Santa. And then I wanted to combine like the ultimate Christmas game. So I've been taking the style and just taking the sprites, and that's why I know the Doc Robots sprites are taller because of the way the way they're designed. I've looked at the sprites and like, wow, it's hard to jump over.
Well, I'm waiting for that game still.
Well, I know. Me too.
Have an audience to release it to.
I do. Yeah, there's a couple of guys already on Facebook that are like, "We should do it."
Totally rad Christmas something game. You can
for real, yeah.
Podcast game, official game of the podcast.
Make it free so I don't get sued for copyright infringement.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, be careful. Well, they're not Nintendo. They're not as tough, but
they're not litigious. But no, I know. But yeah, so the Doc Robot sprites were hard, but yeah. So in the original game, we have Fireman, Bomb Man, Guts Man, Cut Man, Elec Man, and Iceman. Those are like the 6 Doc robots.
Right.
Then once you beat all those robots, then Dr. Wily's stage opens up, and he's got like this cool skull castle, and then it's just basically like I think there's like 4 different levels that you play until you get to him, and then you beat him.
Part 1?
Oh yeah, in part 1. Does he not have it in part 1?
He doesn't have the castle in part 1.
Okay, I don't remember. At this point, I usually just play the Robot Masters, and then I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, he does have the eyebrows though.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He comes in like this little spaceship kind of looking thing, and then in the game, in the sprites, he makes his eyebrows. He raises his eyebrows and up and down. It's like so
classic.
Yeah, definitely classic. It's so cute, but evil. And, but yeah, so you know, you have the freedom to choose for the Robot Masters, but then once you get to Dr. Wily's level, then you there's like 4 stages and you beat him. In part 2, that's when they introduce the Skull Castle, and you're just like, wow. But the Robot Masters there are Airman, Crashman, Flashman, Quickman, Metal Man, Bubble Man, Heat Man, and Woodman. Is that right? Did I get them all?
In order.
What's that?
Did you just go in order?
Of course I went in order. That's how I remember them.
Make sure you got every one.
And you know, they had I mean they were just cooler the way they were designed, you know, the better graphics. They really pushed the graphics as far as the 8-bit pixels go, and the designs, and they're just something about them. They have more of like a depth, I think, than the first game.
Yeah, the levels are so memorable in part 2. Like the first one, well, no, I mean a bunch come to mind, but like Bubble Man's level, the atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
Like, feels like you're in I can't even explain it. It just feels like you're in this water kingdom. Well,
and the backgrounds are, I mean, they're rendered really great. You know, they have like the waterfalls in the back and everything. I mean, it's cool. You know, it really is.
And stuff like
the frogs. Fish, I hated those frogs. Oh.
Yeah, I agree. Like that, the atmosphere is great. I don't know that because I love Mega Man 3 too. I don't know that atmosphere is as good in Mega Man 3. Maybe a few levels, like Gemini Man's level.
Oh yeah, Gemini Man's level is cool. But Gemini Man was like my favorite of part 3. I liked his look. He's got a great look.
Top Man, like Shadow Man's level doesn't feel like a ninja-y or anything like that. But Mega Man 2 definitely captured it for me.
Yeah.
The levels, I believe, so.
Well, yeah, like Airman is set, of course, up in the air. You know?
But like
so
you're in the clouds.
Yeah, you can't fall or you'll die. like that's how it goes, you know?
And we always started with Airman's level.
We always started with Airman, yeah.
Oh,
A
sorry.
friend of mine was telling me one time he started with Heatman, and it took him quite some time to like get the disappearing blocks part. There's like this long gap, and these blocks will appear and then disappear in sequence. And for him to get that took him a long time. And I remember it took me a long time until like I had Rush Jet, and I was like, okay, I'm just skipping this.
No, Jerry, no.
Or whatever it was, item 2. It was item 2. And I just take item 2. And
that's the dark side, Jerry. That's the easy way out.
Well, but I'm really into like trying to do the speed runs now. I mean, I try to beat it like as fast as I can, but also because I have 3 kids, and so I don't get a lot of time.
Okay, all right.
So I gotta go with the speed runs. But no, I remember trying to time it, and you have to learn the order, and then sometimes a block, you'll jump down, but then the next block appears like right above you, so you got to jump just in time to make it. And oh man. That's the stuff of nightmares right there.
Love those, man.
The music was always so great,
right?
The first one.
What's your favorite Mega Man theme?
Oh, that's a tough one because, of course, I like Crash Man.
Yep, that's the first one that always comes up.
I think out of all of them, that's like the most memorable.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Who's the other one? Woodman, I think. I like that. That music was really good.
We'll get to that at the end, right?
Yeah. We'll do that. But Manami Matsume, I think she did the first one, and it's funny because the first one, it's good, but to me the themes aren't quite as memorable as, of course, part 2, which was done by Takeishi, is his last name. I don't remember his first name, but he had like a whole different approach to the way the music was done. And in fact, he had to compose it twice because I guess his first round of scores were like too cutesy, and they didn't like it. Wow. So they were rejected. The only one that survived was Crash Man.
Okay. I did not know that.
And so then he had to redo them, and they were like, make it cooler. So then most of them were like in a minor key. And
oh yeah. Mega Man, oh my gosh, like Mega Man 2. And by everybody listening, if you know a lot about music or even a little bit, go to that what's the channel called?
8-Bit Music Theory.
He has a video on Mega Man 2's music. When I saw it just blew my mind.
It's great, and he's right. Like I never noticed it really until he pointed it out, and then I started.
It's like similar harmonies a lot.
Yeah, it's like you go to the minor one, and then like a flat 7 major, and then go back to minor 1. Which really is, it's like a very folky, very very rock kind of thing. You're in E minor, and then you go to D, and then you go back to E minor.
Yeah.
And then of course randomly you'll throw in the flat 6 major, so it's like E minor, and then like C, D, E minor, which I mean that's like classic, like Led Zeppelin, Blue Oyster Cult. I mean that's like everybody, A minor, F, G, A minor kind of a thing,
But that's what's so cool about Mega Man again is like he's this little cute guy, but like everything else is like freaking cool. And then he's this little guy facing all these, like in this cool world, facing these freaking tough bosses. And he just feels like us, like we're the hero, and everything stacked up against us.
Yep. Exactly.
And he is the Mega Man. That's what we're trying to be. And I don't know. There we go. I'm probably going too far into this. But,
I just like playing it, man. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I know what you're saying, and it's true, and it's so funny because every time the new game comes out, they introduce something else, and they make it. You got to make it cooler, but it's always goes back to the basics of just one little guy against like all these tough robot masters.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? This is kind of an aside, but I've heard you guys talk about ranking and base and like other weird things and weird episodes, and I wanted to bring one thing up.
Rankin Bass.
Well, we're talking about Mega Man, so
that's why you said base. Yeah.
But like, I don't know if you know anything about the Game Boy.
A little bit, yeah.
Really, really good. really good for Game Boy games. Two things. Part 2 is the game I want to talk about. Apparently, there's a glitch in Part 2 where the music, they programmed it incorrectly, and there's some tuning issues, but also the melody is like an octave higher, like throughout the whole game, and it's just like annoying.
Oh
So,
man.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I did notice when I played it, it was a little off, but somebody patched it recently, and they patched the ROM, and you can play it now.
Oh, nice.
But okay, that's not what I wanted to say. In Part 2, I don't know the story that well, but Dr. Wily goes to the future or something, and he captures Mega Man, and he brings him back to the present and like converts him into a bad robot.
An evil, yeah. So there's like
and his name is Quint.
Quint,
And,
and he has like a jackhammer or something, right?
Yeah, it's like a pogo jackhammer.
Oh, okay.
It's called, but his evil plan, like you're always talking about the evil plans. His evil plan is to go to the future, capture Mega Man, and then bring him back so he can so he can like capture Mega Man in the present, or like
that's
you already captured Mega Man. Like
it sounds very.
If you could capture Mega Man in the future, why didn't you just capture him now?
It sounds very Rankin Bass. Yes.
It's funny, and then like, how does Mega Man feel like he's like knowing that he's gonna eventually like be in the future and then come back and then die to himself? Like
it's Game Boy. It doesn't count.
No, but those games, awesome.
No, I know they're good. What always kind of turned me off about that, and also later on, like with Part 8 or some of the others, was when they start talking about like alien robots, robots from outer space. I'm like, no, just keep it.
That's only Part 5 though on the Game Boy.
Like just keep it regular, man. I mean, why complicate it? It's good. You got a good thing going. Like in Part 3, so Wily, pretends to be good, and he and Dr. Light work together, and they create like a peacekeeping, huge peacekeeping robot called Gamma. It's that's like the next level kind of peacekeeping thing. And of course, then Wily steals it and turns it evil, and all it reprograms it. Right. But like, you have this huge threat. Why do you need like an alien with energy that you don't recognize? I mean, why couldn't it be? I think it's Part 8. I don't remember, but. Why complicate it? Why not just make Dr. Wily has a crazy breakthrough with some different forms of, something? Why does it have to be alien? I mean, I don't know. That kind of always turned me off too. I mean, it's still a great game. There's still great games, but it's just, story-wise, I would
say there's a few, but like the majority of them are just plain and simple. Beat Dr. Wily, beat the Robot Masters, which, by the way, Part 9, which came out, I believe, 2008, on multiple platforms. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it went back to Dr. Light had created those robots, and then
I think so. Yeah,
took them over again.
I think you're right.
And they had the first female,
Splash Woman,
Splash Woman,
a mermaid.
So anyway, Part 8's kind of weird.
But so Part 2, there's all new Robot Masters. He beats Wily again.
Right.
But the thing that always freaked me out about Part 2 was that the very last boss was an alien. And you're like, what? Wily was an alien? And then of course it's not. It turns out it's just a hologram machine that he's using, and you're like, oh, okay, things are back to normal.
Yeah.
But I remember the look when he first turned, and it was so different from like all the other sprites, all the other. I mean, it looked different, So I remember it threw me for a loop. And of course, they capture Wily and all that stuff, and then he pretends to reform, and that's when we get to Part 3. And Part 3 is significant because it introduces Proto Man,
right?
Which was blues, as he's called in Japan. Again, keeping with that theme, so rock, roll, blues. Right. But Proto Man was like the very first prototype, but he has like something's wrong with like his power core, essentially. And so Dr. Light was going to fix him, and but he thought that if you fixed him, Proto Man thought that he might lose who he was, so he kind of runs away.
Right.
Which is kind of, I mean, that's like deep if you think about it, but
that's really cool.
But I don't.
That's really cool. That's like Star Trek stuff,
right? Like Data and the Borg. But so he runs away. So there's this mysterious guy, and they wanted to keep it mysterious on purpose. They wanted you to the programmers wanted you to kind of think, wait, is this guy good? Is this guy bad? And he kind of goes by the alias Breakman. He's got like this full mask, and then it's revealed later on, like he takes the full mask off. He's just got like a half mask. And now originally they wanted to keep him with like his hair out, and but again, due to like some of their time constraints that they didn't get to finish. I think it would have been cool,
Anyway,
but in part 3, and I know we're kind of going a little bit faster here, but so Mega Man 3, it introduces that. It also introduces Rush, who's Mega Man's robot dog, right?
You know what? No, yeah. But I was going to say, we're probably going to have to cut this into multiple episodes, because we're not even talking about like the ending of Mega Man 2.
I know. Well, we'll talk about it. Let's go.
I mean, can we just, these are some of my favorite moments. The ending first of all, to Mega Man 1, you beat Dr. Wily, and then it shows Mega Man like basically running home.
Yeah.
He's free of his burden. It's kind of like Frodo. He's done. He defeated whatever. He got rid of the ring, and he's done. He can go back to his family. And then at the end, he's wearing his normal clothes. And the music in that part is like, it's got this like sad kind of somber, no, I don't know what the word is, but it just gives me the feels. And then part 2 starts off, and if you had beat part 1 and you knew the ending, part 2 starts off with the same music.
Nice.
It's the exact same music, and then it slowly escalates into the cool Mega Man 2 rock music. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, you know what? That's my favorite right there. That's the one.
But like, so there's this very emotional pull to the Mega Man hero journey, and then you're done and you get to go home. And the same thing happens in part 2. You beat Dr. Wily, and then it shows Mega Man this time walking.
And the seasons change, right?
Yes, and the music is so pretty. There's a lot of 7th chords and some interesting tonicizations and key changes and stuff. And
nice.
And it's sad. And then he finally gets home, and the season now is spring. It's green. It changes seasons and stuff, and it's sad. And then when he gets home, all you see is the house that he's in, and he's gone, but he left his helmet.
The helmet, yeah,
on the hill, because he's done. He's actually not a fighter, which is crazy. Mega Man, he's just a boy, and he wants peace, but he doesn't like to fight. He's like Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, he only fights when he has to.
Yeah, exactly. And that is so freaking cool. And he reminds me of Frodo. He does it because he has to.
Yeah.
In a way, it's not as much depth there. But you get what I'm saying. And the music, guys, play these games, guys. Like, the music, it still holds up. It still holds up.
It does. It really does.
How many times have you heard Jerry say it doesn't hold up to certain things from the 80s? But these games, this music, it holds up. Maybe the story, no, but anyway, sorry to go on that.
No, it is. I do remember that, and the seasons changing as he's walking. That's always stuck in my mind.
Okay, so then, sorry, Jerry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
You go into part 3.
Part 3.
The intro to part 3 also starts with that same kind of like, I don't know if the somber is the right word, but it's like, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's more, it's a lot of arpeggios, that kind of thing.
It like sets the tone again of like, this is Mega Man. Like he's, he has to do this. Here we go again. Anyway, the music just drives these games. So anyway, go ahead. Say what you were going to. I'm sorry.
But the thing that I loved about part 3 was that they introduced all these other features. So Proto Man, there's like more backstory there, more canon, which I love world building. So anytime you get to have world building, it's always great.
Yeah.
But then, you also have like Rush.
Yes.
Like I was saying, he's Mega Man's robotic sidekick, essentially. Yes. And he kind of combined some of the other things. So in part 1, you had the robot masters, but you also had an extra little item called the Magna Beam,
right.
Magna Beam. And that kind of created like these little bridges that you could would last a little bit, and you could walk on them to kind of avoid some of the pitfalls. In part 2, you had these 3 items, so one of them kind of like helped you up walls. One of them was like just helped you up in general, and another one was kind of like a little jet kind of thing,
Right.
So he kind of combined that. So there was rush, jet. So after you'd beat like a certain boss or a certain master, then you'd get their weapon plus an adapter for rush, and so there was rush marine. And so, Mega Man would kind of like ride in this little submarine type thing that Rush would turn into. Cool. It was great animation. I really like that. But then, there was Rush Jet. So Rush would kind of convert into like a little platform, flying carpet kind of thing. And you could stand on and again, carry over like dangerous pitfalls. Oh yeah. And then of course, Rush also had his Rush Coil, which was kind of like to help Mega Man jump and get higher places. Right. But, somewhere you don't need an actual like jet, just kind of bounce up. And like I said, originally he was going to have a Rush Drill aspect again, but they couldn't quite make it work. Although later on, doesn't he have like a Rush Search feature in some of the later games?
Part 7 was the first one.
Part 7, yeah.
For the mainline series. I think that was the first one, yeah.
Which is just really cool, I mean, the like his little sidekick can kind of do all this other stuff. I mean, that's just, that's neat to me.
I dig it. And then later on, never mind. I'm going to jump ahead again on you, Jerry.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and then later on you got Beat, Eddie, or Flip Top.
Flip Top, yeah. Eddie.
Start introducing all these new characters. Otto, who I guess Mega Man 7. Tango, the cat.
But yeah, so they keep introducing new elements, which I always appreciated. When you get to part 4, and I'm kind of skipping the story, but when you get to part 4, they introduce the charge up Mega Buster.
Right.
So you can actually like hold the charge shot, and it does a whole bunch more damage rather than just the one little the one little pellet of the one little
for some
Mega Buster.
People controversial. Some people think that ruined it. It depends. I go either way. On sometimes I love it, sometimes I don't. But I do think that they needed to have. Yeah, they do. You got to have a charge shot.
I'm on the opinion I like it. But when 9 and 10, when they came out for the Wii and they didn't have the charge shot, I was fine with that too. It was kind of back to the old school Mega Man, which is cool. But part 3, they also introduced the slide. And that mechanic, I know Inafune was very proud of. Even though he doesn't like part 3 as a game, he was very he really liked that slide. And I did too. I mean, it was kind of a cool concept to help you get under a lot of stuff. But
we were so excited.
Oh, I remember. I remember being like crazy excited.
And again, the same thing with the slide. I love the slide. It does make things pretty easy. But I'm not here to rag on anything because I love the slide. I love the Mega Buster. It's either way. If you make the game, if you add the slide, if you add the Mega Buster, that just means the bosses have to be harder, or obstacles have to be harder. But as far as the Mega Buster, I did find that a lot of times I ended up just holding. I was always holding the charge.
Me too. I still do that.
Yeah. So I mean that's why it goes back and forth. But anyway, it's not the topic of this podcast.
No, but of course you get to Mega Man 3, and then we have again some really cool, robot masters. So for part 2 and part 3, they actually asked fans, like they asked for submissions, and of course, even when they picked ones, they would tweak them and kind of make them fit their style better. But we ended up in part 3 with Magnet Man, Hard Man, Top Man, Shadow Man, who was kind of like a ninja, so that was kind of cool. Spark Man, and that was kind of like the first cycle, I suppose. And then there was like another little sequence of a second cycle, which was Snake Man, Gemini Man, and Needle Man.
Right.
And I always kind of liked how they all worked. I always preferred that, like one big circle.
Yeah.
But
I'm not sure why they did that.
I don't know. I don't know if it was like a programming thing because of time, or they just thought to change it up, make like.
Right.
But but yeah, essentially those last three, Snake Man, Gemini Man, Needle Man, kind of work all together on their little cycle.
Yeah.
And the first five kind of work there. But in part three, I mean, Shadow Man was really cool. His design was great. He was, kind of like a ninja style robot. And then I always liked the design of Gemini Man too.
Mm-hmm.
He was really cool. He had something about his helmet. I really loved his helmet.
Yeah, I dig the music from Gemini Man. We'll get there again.
You can't wait, huh?
Oh man, like I feel bad for the listeners because like I'm just like I don't know. I just want to keep talking about it for like 5 hours.
We probably could.
We might have to have a 2-part show here. Like seriously, just break it down the middle.
But yeah, so those, there was those, and then like we were talking about earlier, after you beat all those, then there were the dock robots,
right?
And so you'd fight those, and the cool thing about those is that those were 2 per level, and
right.
So instead of like each one having their own separate stage, there was 2
right.
bosses per stage. And so you had to have enough energy tanks, which is something else that they introduced in like the second game.
Yeah.
The energy tanks. They also changed the way that the power ups looked.
From 1 to 2.
From 1 to 2, and then they kind of stuck with that design from part 2, which I appreciated also because that was one thing I didn't really like in part 1. That they didn't look very good.
Right. Right.
But the energy tanks kind of changed the game because it would refill your health meter when you would use it. Which again is also controversial because it made it easier.
Well, but I don't know that one's controversial, but for me, I try and do it without using any energy tanks.
Yeah, of course.
There are a few again that I have.
You have to, yeah. There's some that are just like, especially if you're not using any of the Robot Master weapons.
Yeah, I do want to say for the dock robot episode, the dock robot levels.
Mm-hmm.
What's cool about them is they take 4 of the levels from the normal Robot Masters, and they
add a ton of spikes.
Yeah, they are a lot harder. But what's cool about them is they use the same, like sort of the similar background. I don't know if they're called tiles or whatever they're called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tiles.
And then like they change Needleman's level to like nighttime. And like a few different colors. The levels are harder, but they're completely new levels, but with the same what are they called? Tiles and stuff from the other levels.
Yeah. So it's variations on a theme, essentially.
Yeah, it's like variations. And they do that with all the levels, and they just change them slightly, but they look like they've been destroyed, like destruction, like post-apocalyptic or whatever levels, Mad Max. And
I mean, he did just kind of go in there and just tear everything up trying to get these Robot Masters.
Yeah.
But
so
no,
are they the same levels, or like is that like within the story? Is it the same level, or is it?
There's a lot of similarities, but they're not. I mean, they're different. But the one thing that they added a ton of the spikes, which is like holes. Mega Man's only real weakness. It's
spikes and holes.
Spikes and holes. Yeah, that's all.
I watched someone play Mega Man 1 for the first time in a very long time.
Okay.
And they were used to playing the other games. This is on YouTube, Speedrunner.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, he got hit and he fell into spikes, and he was like, and if you can't see me, my face is like, oh, like just like what?
In shock.
What? Yeah, because in all the other games you get hit and you have invincibility frames.
Yeah, a tiny bit.
Be on the spikes and you don't die, but in Mega Man 1, you touch those spikes, you're dead.
You're dead. Yeah, it doesn't matter. If an enemy hits you and you have the couple of like a second or two of invincibility, it does not count on those spikes in the first Mega Man game, like it does in the others.
Right.
But yeah, that's like his only real weakness is like the environmental, hazards and the spikes, the pitfalls, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think in Mega Man 11 he's got like the pierce protectors or like the shock guards or something like that.
Oh yeah, you can start buying stuff like that also in like Mega Man 9 and 10, I think.
Sure. Oh, I think you're right. I haven't played them enough. I have them and I beat them, and then our Wii kind of stopped working, and I haven't played them enough. So
Yeah, so they have all these different things in the shop, the auto shop.
Well, but I remember wanting something like that in some of those games,
When you were a
because
kid.
there was a couple of those games where you would have to like dive down a long pitfall, and
Mhm.
they'd be covered, like both sides of the walls would be covered in spikes, and then suddenly they'd
Right.
jut out to the left, or the right, and then you kind of have to maneuver so that you don't hit the spikes. and
Oh man.
and I remember as a kid, those were like ridiculously hard.
Yes. 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 I
um,
feared those things. I had
me
anxiety.
too. I did too. Yeah, I was like, okay, am I gonna make it? but you'd make it. Eventually you'd realize the pattern when this is coming.
Yeah.
You'd learn, and
Yeah.
you'd make it, and then you had to defeat the boss or whatever came next. But the one thing that I loved about those Doc Robot uh, was that you kind of had to figure out again how to
Mhm.
beat them. We talked about this earlier, that you know exactly, yeah, that Flashman beats Quickman. Okay, well, there's no Flashman from your
Right.
weapons of part three. You have a Magnet Man and Hard Man and all those weapons, but
Mhm.
I mean, there's no Flashman. So what are you going to do? So you had to like figure out all over again. So it was almost like a game. It's almost like two Mega Man games in one game, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. Because we didn't really talk about this, but figuring out the cycle took a
Hmm.
while, and there was no internet. I mean, you did have Nintendo Power,
Nintendo Power, yeah.
report it, or the hotline, but I don't think we had that, right?
We never
I
bought
don't
issues of
remember.
Nintendo Power. Richard
Right.
did, and I think in part two,
Okay.
after I don't know how many months, and I kind of figured it out, but I remember reading it and it was like, that's not quite the way I do it. But I know at first, I would do Metal Man's level first, and then that Metal Blade was like crazy overpowered,
Yeah.
and so I would use it on just about everybody
Okay.
because it
Okay.
worked on just about everybody.
Yeah.
uh, so
It was broken with the metal blade.
I remember in reading his Nintendo Power for the second game, and then
Okay.
learning like the order, the suggested order, from that.
Right.
But the other ones we just figured out ourselves.
Yeah. Well, you did.
Well, yeah, after a lot of trial and error, yeah. Well, yeah, because I
But
wouldn't let
that's
you
part
play.
of the
So, sorry,
game.
man.
Like yeah, that's part of the Mega Man experience is like grinding it out and having
Yeah,
to replay after replay to figure this out. Not just going to the internet like we can nowadays to
yeah,
find you to put the time in. And so for part three, for the Doc Robot levels in part three, not only like you said, did you have to do it again, but also when you got to the first boss in the level, if you died, you went all the way back to the beginning of the
yeah.
level. That was, oh my god, I remember being so frustrated with that. And those levels were hard, and the boss was hard,
Yep,
super hard.
it was. I
um
I remember it was. But and then the other thing is that we only had a certain amount of energy tanks, and you didn't want to use them because you knew eventually you were going to have to fight Dr. Wily and all his stuff.
right.
So I remember trying not to use the energy tanks,
Yeah.
and so it was, that whole deal. But eventually, you get to Dr. Wily. You go through his other levels at his Skull Castle, and you beat him.
And yet you gotta fight Break Man or Proto Man,
You got to fight Proto Man,
which
and then they reveal
he has no health bar.
no health bar. Yeah, so you have no idea. You have no. You're fighting him, and you have no idea. Oh, and then the floor wasn't level either. It wasn't flat.
Oh
The floor
yeah.
wasn't flat. They were.
He was pretty hard until
He was hard. I mean,
oh my
at
god.
first, yeah, and then you find the pattern, and you can jump over him, and
Slide.
slide
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Yeah, but yeah, so you beat Dr. Wily with Gamma, and that one was easy. Once we figured out it was a top man,
Yeah.
then it takes like one hit or something.
Right.
And
The cool
but then
part is that
they have that
they
huge
use
reveal
go
about
ahead.
that Proto Man is like Mega Man's brother.
Yeah.
And that was like, whoa,
That's after you beat him, right? At the very end.
Yeah, it's at the
And
very
there's
end.
like a cut
Like,
scene.
so it's kind of like it goes through all the Robot Masters so far, and it gives them like their
Yeah.
numbers. Here's number 13 was this Robot Master, and like the order of how they were built. And
Mhm.
then it reveals that Proto Man was like essentially the prototype, and so he's kind of like Mega Man's older brother.
Right.
So which maybe that's why you like Mega Man so much, because I'm Proto Man and you're the perfected Mega Man.
I'm Proto Man. What?
You could be Proto Man. I like Mega Man better.
I'm Proto Man. You're Mega Man. I'm Luigi. You're Mario. Case closed.
I was just making an older brother joke, but never mind.
I still take it personally. Always. No, I'm just joking. Part real quick. Part 3, the Wily castle bosses. You got redo of the rock monster who we
we used to call him Sandman. Yeah.
A much harder version. Can't use the Lekman trick. And also you have another clone level where this time there's 3. You're fighting against 3 Mega Mans on 3 different platforms, and one of them you have to find which one is the solid one and which 2 are like the holograms or illusions. It's pretty cool, and so they're kind of callbacks to part 1. Both of those 2, I think. I really like those. Yeah,
they were good, and I wonder if some of that was because of the time constraint that they had to get the game out.
Yeah. Oh, for part 3?
For part 3, yeah.
Oh, okay, probably.
But they did. They adapted it really good, updated them for that game. You get to part 4, and then they introduce a new villain, which is cool, Dr. Cossack. It's like, oh, he's got his own masters. He's challenging Dr. Light. Dr. Cossack. He's and so you're like, wow, it's not Dr. Wily. Okay, cool. What's going on? And he's like he's just challenging Dr. Light, calling him out, like, hey, my robots are better. What's up? And so but then again, it turns out that no, he's actually not a bad guy.
Right.
Dr. Wily kidnapped his daughter and kind of forced him to to fight.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's like a legit bad guy motive. He's not really a bad guy. He's forced to do it. That's cool.
Yeah.
I dig that.
And I'll never forget because her name was like Kalinka or something.
And she had that hat.
She got the Russian hat, yeah. It's man. Yeah, Proto Man saves her, and so then Dr. Cossack is spared. It's like, oh, okay, and then you gotta go fight Dr. Wily again. But that's when they introduced the Mega Buster, and we get again really cool. I had 2 favorites because I always judge my favorites.
Let me guess. Skullman?
Yep, Skullman.
Okay, I got half of it. You tell me the other.
And Pharaoh Man.
Oh, Pharaoh Man.
I always judge my favorites on like how cool they look. It doesn't matter their weapons. I just liked how cool their design was. For sure. So yeah, part 4 introduced more robot masters. And I won't name them all here, but yeah, Pharaoh Man and Skull Man were my favorites. Although I was always kind of bummed that Skull Man had like just a skull shield. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Gemini Man had like a laser.
Yeah, and the laser didn't, like, you shot it and it bounced off of walls.
Yeah, it was cool.
That was really cool.
It was cool. But Skullman just had a skull shield, and it was like, that's all.
You had to get up close, and you got hit.
Yeah, so there was that. Part 5 with Proto Man has like a gang of new robots, and he's bad, and you're like, what? Proto Man? Say it isn't so.
Yeah,
say it ain't so.
Crazy.
And then you fight the robots, and of course you find out that it's actually another robot that's like a hologram of Proto Man. It's his name is Darkman. Yeah, so there's a Darkman 4, I think, because it was actually like 3 other Darkmans that you fight.
Oh, okay.
And of course, it turns out Dr. Wily is framing Proto Man the whole time, just like, ooh, this guy.
And we should bring up that also part 4 and part 5, and for the most part, just 4, 5, and 6 have the 2 castles.
2 castles, yeah. And you think you win. You're like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then, oh, wait, 3 more levels? What?
I think by part 6, I think we kind of got the... We
figured it out. I hope we did. Part 5, I think, introduced Beat. That if you collect all the letters that spell Mega Man 5, then you can summon Beat, who will help you fight.
And you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, it's
You just equip him and he does everything for you.
for some of them it's kind of nice.
With a Dark Man, yeah.
For Darkman, yeah.
Yeah, Beat's cool. I always dug how he kind of like had a Mega Man look, but he was like a bird. So
Part 6 was a contest to see who was the best at robotics, and it was held by the mysterious Mr. X, who of course turns out to be Dr. Wily. Which, okay, come on, guys, he looks like Dr. Wily. I mean, if Dr. Wily grew his hair out and put on some sunglasses, it's totally Mr. X. How did you not know? But they had some cool robots. Part 5 was hard because I didn't really have like a favorite. I don't know. There wasn't one that just stuck out to me as like the coolest in Part 5. So I think maybe Gravity Man or Gyro Man were like my favorite.
Gravity Man, because his level was pretty cool. And
his level was cool because it would turn you upside down, and then you'd have to run on the ceiling, and you jump, but you're like jumping downwards instead. And
right. And the music on that level has some really interesting harmonies.
Oh yeah,
I don't know how to describe them.
The music for 5 and 6, especially, and 4 to a lesser extent, they just weren't to me as memorable as the first 3.
Oh, I get you.
And then in Part 6, you had Nightman, who was really cool, Centaur Man, who was cool, and Yamato Man was also really cool.
Oh, you always said that Yamato Man.
He was cool.
That's cool. It was cool how they had like the world, like kind of a historical, cultural robots.
They did, yeah.
Like a Greece.
Centaur Man was from Greece, yeah.
Yeah.
Yamato Man was Japanese.
Japanese. You have a Native American.
Yeah.
They weren't all like that, but
a few were, yeah.
Flame Man
was like Middle Eastern. Of course, he had a turban, yeah. so you know.
Part 6 was cool, but also the coolest part was that on this game, all of a sudden now, Rush and you
could combine
into this like super cool like
the Rush power adapter and the Rush jet adapter. So instead of Rush turning into something and then you kind of like jump on it or get inside, he actually like kind of turns into an armor that, you know,
Megazord.
Get out of here with that.
I mean, Voltron.
Voltron.
Sorry. What decade are we in?
80s, man. 80s. No, just kidding. Cool. But you know, it added a little bit different flavor. Of course, Beat was back in that one. But the thing about that Rush, when you merged with Rush, is that you couldn't slide anymore. So it was kind of like a little, just a little twist on it, like, oh man, I want to slide.
Right. Interesting gameplay. Real quick, the animation of Rush and Mega Man combining, it looks really cool for an 8-bit game.
And then 7 and 8 were done for Super Nintendo.
It introduces bass.
I remember Shade Man because he was like he was like a vampire type guy. He had the bat wings and the fangs and the almost like a bow tie or formal wear kind of thing. Yeah. Which is funny because one of the things I loved was that design of Mega Man. So I remember designing my own Mega Man characters, and then eventually you got to the point where it was just kind of like I would just turn my favorite characters into Mega Man characters. Like I wouldn't even try anymore. So there was like Cyclops or Laser Man, I think is what I called him. It was just like Cyclops from the X-Men, and then there was like Dracula Man. And while I remember at first I tried to make him look like the Bela Lugosi type vampire, and then Bram Stoker's Dracula came out, and so I ended up just turning him and trying to make him look like like Gary Oldman is terrible. It's so terrible.
Your drawings, I have fond memories, and there's two specific styles of drawings that I absolutely loved, and it's the turning of the cool characters into Mega Man robots.
Uh-huh.
You were really good at, and they looked awesome. I don't know if you have those, but that would be.
I do. I found them. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then the other thing that he would do, guys, is he would also, and I don't know if this was for me or not. It feels like it was for me, but he would take characters and he would turn them into like Little Caesar.
Oh yeah,
Little Caesar.
I remember that.
Caesar's pizza guy.
Little Caesar pizza. Well, I love pizza.
I absolutely Oh my God, those things blew my mind. I enjoyed like every single image. And you would like I would ask you, can you make this for me? And you would make it for me.
Yeah.
What a good big brother. I take
Oh,
back all
shucks.
my other negative comments.
Oh man. But yeah, and then 9 and 10 came out for the Wii and a couple other systems, I think.
Yeah,
But they went back to that 8-bit style, that original,
right,
Mega Man 1 and 2 kind of gameplay,
right.
and they had some cool characters on those too. But again, I don't really remember them because I didn't play them as much.
Yeah.
The one that always stood out to me was I think it was Power Battle, where it was like a fighting game. And after Mega Man, my second favorite style of games, because Mega Man's a 2D side scroller,
Platformer,
a platformer, but the fighting games were always my second favorite after that. So I loved, of course, Mortal Kombat was tops, and then you had Killer Instinct and Street Fighter and Primal Rage. You remember that one?
Awful game.
I know.
But we loved it.
We did because you could eat the little people, your dinosaurs. And but so there's a lot of fighting games. Of course, Mortal Kombat being the best one. But that's what it was. It was like a Mega Man fighting game. It was cool. I dug it.
Yes. I played that one. I remember I was staying at a hotel in Corpus Christi, Embassy Suites, and they had that in the hotel.
Nice.
All-state tryouts, and I put a lot of money into it. And it's just basically boss battles, but you can team up with people.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah,
really cool. Dug that game a lot.
Well, so if I ever finish my game, so it's going to be in the style of Mega Man, of course, with the same type of pixels and levels, but essentially in my game, you're going to be Santa, and depending on which villain you fight, you'll call another hero. So, like to fight the Wet Bandits, you actually have to play as like Kevin McAllister, that kind of a thing. And whenever you use their weapons, and it's not like Santa using their weapons; it'll be like the other guy, like they'll teleport in and then you're him using that weapon and stuff like that. So
a little Samson.
And in the end, of course, it turns out that it's King Winterbolt from from Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. He's like their villain, but you'll have to fight all the others. So if I ever get to making it, it's been on my to-do list for a while. Then I finally started, and then no, I can't work. Danny, what would you say is your happiest, your happiest memory of Mega Man, if you could pinpoint one?
It would be me and David and you're playing Mega Man 2. It's Mega Man 2. And I mean, this happened in more than one game, but specifically in Mega Man 2, I remember you trying to fight some boss. Which one was it? I'm not sure which one it was, but you couldn't do it. You kept dying, and me and David were rooting for you, and we wanted you to win so bad. And so we would just keep saying, we had a chant, and
I remember,
you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. You can do it.
I remember that,
and thinking that actually helped.
Hey,
distracted you.
Hey man, it helped.
and we kind of started corrupting it, so it just would sound like you can do it, you can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. I remember that. It's good times.
Yeah. Waking up Saturday mornings and
Saturday mornings,
watching you play.
Because we would go check. We would check them out Friday night. Yeah. I think. I mean, of course, those were great times, but I think the happiest would be when I actually did get Mega Man 2, and all of a sudden it was like, it's mine. I own this. It's good. And let me just give you some quick stats about Mega Man, and then we'll get to our next section here. So Mega Man was created in the year 2000X or 20XX, depending on which game you're reading. He's about 10 years old, 132 centimeters, which is 4'4". Wow. He weighs 230 pounds or 105 kilograms. Holy. He runs on solar energy. He's made of a ceramic titanium alloy, so that when he lands or gets hit, he doesn't shatter, but instead he kind of bends. Wow. That's why he can take so much. His maximum output is 1200 RPM, and his maximum torque is 8500 RPM. So he also has magnetic joints. He's got a pretty good system going on here. Good Dr. Light did his good stuff. Right? Wow. So we're gonna this actually normally would be my favorite segment of the show, which is Gag Me with the Spoon, where we would do some bad impressions. And I'm still going to do some bad impressions, but instead we're going to do Name That Tune here. Name that mega tune. So
go easy on me, please.
Okay, I promise. I'll see if you can remember their music. So we're going to start off easy. So let's do Crash Man.
Okay. Well, dun 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 dun. Dun 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 and it keeps going. So
that's good. All right. Let's see. What's another easy one? How about Cut Man?
I'm remembering in the middle of it. Da, 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 da.
That's awesome. That's so good. It's so good. Great music. How about Gemini Man? You were talking about it. His level.
Oh, let me start on a different key.
Yeah, that's high.
Something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's repetitive a little bit.
Yep. All right, let's do last one here. Heat Man. There you go.
I can't do it.
Oh man, that's good. All right, that's great stuff there. For me, what I will do, I'll do a cutscene from Mega Man 8. I don't know why they decided to make Dr. Light crazy, but because I put you through the ringer with all that, I'll go ahead and put myself through the ringer and try to imitate this ridiculous. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a New York accent with a lisp. I don't know, but he's got something going on. And so Dr. Light in his cutscenes, but cannot let it fall into Dr. Wally's hands. Instead of Dr. Wily, it's like Dr. Wally. What in the world? Oh man. There, I'll put myself through the ringer.
That was awesome.
But in what is our normal Gag Me with the Spoon contest, we each do our best impression of our least favorite part of the show. Danny, being very gracious, actually has some Mega Man merch, which is it's like an 8-bit little. I mean, I don't even know what I'd call decoration or toy or collector's item.
I don't know what it is, but it's awesome.
It's like Mega Man fighting Elec Man, and he's throwing, he's in his Cut Man colors, and he's throwing the Cut Man blade. I forgot the name of it. Mm-hmm. And the other one is Mega Man as Bomb Man, and he's like throwing a bomb fighting Guts Man. So if you vote for me, all those that voted for me, their name will be entered to win the Guts Man one. And if you voted for Danny, all those that voted for Danny will get their name entered into a raffle for the Cutsman one. Yeah. And so either way, someone's going to be winning some cool Mega Man gear. So whether you like Cutsman or Gutsman, we'll tell you who to vote for. Or Leckman, I should say, and Gutsman. So yeah, y'all get a chance to win some cool little Cutsman decorations. And of course, I will post pictures of that on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. So yeah, it should be good times. And thank you, Danny, for doing that.
Yeah, no problem. This was a lot of fun, and I just, it's too short. I want to keep talking.
I do too, but unfortunately, and you're right. We might have to do like a part 2 Mega Man sometime later in the year.
Yeah.
But for now, and maybe we'll just do something on the Mega Man music.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
or another video game.
Or another
There's
video,
a ton
yeah.
of video games. So
So before we go on to our Knowing is Half the Battle segment, I'm going to take Rush Jet, and we're going to go to our new segment, Chatting with the Littles. So take it away. Hey, welcome back to Chatting with the Littles. I'm here with little number 1, my almost 8-year-old daughter.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Yeah, we're talking Mega Man today. What do you remember about Mega Man?
That my favorite guy is Nightman.
Nightman.
Even though he's a bad guy, he's the easiest one for me to fight.
Oh, from Mega Man Part 6?
I guess.
Yes, he's from Mega Man 6.
Oh, then yeah.
Do you remember Mega Man Part 1 or Part 2 at all?
No, because I don't even know how the one Mega Man Part 2 or 1 or 3 or 4 or 5 are.
Oh, okay. Well, Mega Man Part 2 has some cool guys in it, like Airman and Crashman, and Woodman and Quickman and Flashman.
And Santa Man.
No, there's no Santa Man. No, that's something else. Maybe you're thinking of Dr. Light.
Oh. Who is Dr. Light?
He made Mega Man. Well, anyway.
That doesn't understand. I don't
Mega Man's
understand.
a robot.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a 10-year-old boy robot.
That's weird.
Anyway, so let's get back to, I think on that note, we need to get back to our regularly scheduled program. So Danny, the G.I. Joe taught us that knowing is half the battle. What would you say is the other half of the battle here?
So in Mega Man, knowing is half the battle, because if you know the boss order, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, the game's super easy. So I would say the other half of the battle is doing it with Mega Buster only, no energy tanks.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good extra challenge there.
No glitches.
For me, if knowing is half the battle, the other half is that if you're double crossed by your assistant, make sure you have a lab robot you can convert into a super fighting robot.
Yes. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Oh man, Danny, it's been so much fun. I love you, man, and it's been great reminiscing about all the good Mega Man stuff, and just it's not super Christmassy compared to some of our other things, but it holds a good Christmas memory for me in my heart because I got it for Christmas, and it's just it really formed a whole part of my gaming experience, and and I know you as well. So
that's beautiful.
Anything you want to add?
Anything I want to add? Let me see. No, just I think we can post a link to the cutscene for
Dr. Wily. That's so terrible.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And just this is a fantastic podcast. I hope to be on it again, and I'm sorry for all the listeners out there who had to listen to me this whole time.
It's okay. I forced them to listen to me too. So
no, that's pretty much it.
Right on. Well, then let me just end it by saying, I only fight when I am forced to protect the world from those who would pit machines against man. I believe humans and robots can live in peace. By checking us out on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're feeling as noble as rock, leave us a review on iTunes. Not only does it help us, reach more people, but you also get your name entered into our first rad contest for a chance to win some cool swag from the Christmas store where I work. You also get a free sticker, so there's that. Anyway, don't forget to vote and get yourself entered into the Mega Man merch contest. And I'll sign off by saying, later, dudes. Wait, what did you want to say?
Challenge time.
Oh, yeah?
The challenge is going to be to make your Mega Man Buster, or whatever it's
The Mega
called.
Buster?
Yeah.
A Christmas-themed Mega Buster?
Yeah, candy cane striped.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Make it candy cane instead of blue.
What do you think they should make it out of?
Cardboard. Real electronic. I don't know. Anything you want to.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. The challenge this week is to make your own candy cane or Christmas-themed Mega Buster.
Yep. Later, dudes and dudettes.